Welcome to Saltwater Fishing University. I'm Captain Phil, your host. Let's go talk about some redfish.
Alright guys, so we're going to be fishing here for redfish. One of the things I want to show you is how I rig the bait. So we're using a whole pinfish right here. I've cut his tail off and I've trimmed him here and here. This is going to make him wiggle a little differently, put a little bit different vibration in the water versus some of those other fish that might be down there. These redfish are used to feeling a certain vibration from the pinfish, so what we're doing is we're giving them a different look, a different feel to the water. So we're going to go ahead and cast this bait out. We're basically going to be letting it sit there, and I'll show you some of the other baits we're going to use here in just... Alright, so the other bait that we're going to be throwing out here is just going to be a chunk of pinfish, just like that. Nice, bloody, juicy, and super fresh. Unfortunately, that pinfish gave his life for us today. We're going to bomb these out pretty far from the boat, so we're going to keep the boat out of range of these fish. We're also using very light drag. You want to lighten that up a little bit. These fish hit, we want them to run. You know, getting them into the bushes may happen, but realistically, we just want to leave that bait out there. That bait's going to be doing its job by smelling like a fresh dead pinfish out there. Those redfish are using their noses to hunt mostly. Their eyesight isn't the best, so they're going to go out there and they're going to find those baits. I'm going to put one more bait out. This last bait, I'm going to go a little bit closer to the mangrove, so we kind of have our bases covered. One's in close, one's medium, and one's a little bit deeper. This is going to help us key in on where to find those redfish. So not every day they're going to be in the same feeding zone or area. They might be in really tight one day. The next day they might be further away. So we really have to try to figure that out almost day to day. So that's what we're starting with today. So when we're looking for redfish, we're looking for a couple different things. We're looking for somewhere that could be shaded during our high water temperatures that we have right now. So our water temperature is about 93 degrees, which is ridiculously hot. And these redfish are going to be in one of two places. They're going to be hiding out in grass where it's a little bit cooler, or they're going to be up in the shade in the mangroves where it's going to be cooler in there. It gives them a place for cover, right? That, or they could be in a deeper channel. So we want to maybe take a look at these different factors when we're looking for our redfish. And today we have another factor, one of the hardest factors that I fish in, which is a low tide. So when I say a low tide, our tide is going to be at a 0.4 here in a little bit, which means it's only going to be 0.4 of a foot above the low water level, which is marked on your graph, which that can be pretty scary because that's super, super shallow. So the first thing, when we look at that low tide, we know those fish aren't necessarily going to be in the mangroves because it's dry in there. They're going to be pushed out a little bit. So we're starting our day off fishing a couple different areas in here that have different patches of grass. I've already seen some bait flickering in the area. I feel confident that there's game fish here, sport fish that we're looking for. It's just a matter of time of waiting for them. So when we take a look at your area, Google Maps is a great thing to look at as well. It can give you a really good idea of where the shallow flats are. You're going to have sand flats versus grass flats. You can even find some deeper ledges or areas that go off into deeper water that are near your mangroves. Now that would be a really good spot to key in on because those fish have cover in the mangroves, but they also have cover in deep water if they need it. So a lot of times you have predators, whether it's sharks or dolphins, they're going to be pushing these fish in different areas. You got to kind of think about where the dolphins and sharks can't get to. That's going to be your super shallow water areas that a lot of these fish can live in and can get to. The other thing with that is their food. Now, timing when they're going to eat might be difficult. We can kind of make a point to try to catch these fish on any point of the tide or any point of the day. That means you've accomplished a lot as an angler. But, you know, if we look at their food that's up in these mangroves, they love to be way back in there, searching out little crabs and crustaceans that are crawling in there, shrimp, little bait fish that can't get away from them as easily. So that's why the mangroves are such a big deal to these snook and these redfish. So yeah. We're going to sit out here in a little bit. Hopefully we get a bite soon. As we're sitting here waiting, I want to point out a couple things, kind of the way I have everything set up behind me. You know, what we're really looking for is a change, a slightest little bump in the line, and then the line starts getting tight. That's what we're looking for on that fish to pick up that bait, and that's when we know that we have a solid bite on. So we keep watching those lines. I watch rod tips all day long. That's what I'm looking for. You can kind of see how I have the boat set up here. I got a rod over here that you can't see. It's in a rod holder. I got two rod holders on either side of my cooler up front here. I like having this cooler here, not only for extra insulated space, but it also gives me a perch to stand on to kind of get above these fish. I know it's only, 18 inches or whatever, but that 18 inches is night and day difference. I can stand up there and see so much more than I can in my deck. These rod holders on the side are sold by Yeti. They make them and sell them, and they're excellent rod holders. We've hooked plenty of high 30-inch redfish, and 40-inch snook on those rod holders with rods just sitting in there. So, pay attention to the way your boat's set up. It makes a big difference. We got the shallow water anchors out back. The Minn Kota Raptors are holding our boat in place, keeping constant pressure on that ground. All the little details are really what plays into an effective strategy when it comes to catching these fish. One of the other things that's super important when we go to pick up those rods is that we're not dropping the rod tip. So I watch a lot of people, when we're bait fishing like this, we got the rods out, we're watching the line start to get tight, we get all excited about it. First thing that we do is run over and pick it up, and then we go like this. And we just put slack in that line, allowing that fish to get away. So number one thing that you want to do, I'm going to let a little line out so I don't go pulling on my dead bait. When we pick up that rod, is we're keeping that rod tip straight up and maybe even a little bit backwards like this. We're keeping a lot of pressure on that line until we can get our hand on the reel down tight on it, set that hook, and make sure that fish is on. So really be sure that you don't just go picking it up and dropping it down. It's a common mistake that I see every day. I try not to let my clients set the hooks on fish because they will do that inevitably, even if I tell them. So it's a habit that you're gonna have to pick up and work on, but really focus on pick that rod tip up and make it go backwards. You're leaning back, get your hand on that reel down, set the hook, come tight with that fish, and never ever let pressure off that fish. So while we're waiting on that fish to bite, I wanna go over another great way to fish for redfish that doesn't involve bait. So live bait can work excellent for redfish, white bait, threadfin, chunked threadfin, dead fish. A redfish is gonna eat anything it really wants to. Put the right thing in front of it and it's hungry, it's gonna eat. Ladyfish are an excellent bait for them, and when we use ladyfish, we chunk them up into little chunks and put them on the hook. It's all dead bait techniques, but there's a lot of times you get in a situation where redfish might be pretty fired up, and we want to present to them an artificial lure. And some of the best lures to do that with are paddle tails, jig heads, and paddle tails. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best color. I'm saying that this is a color that can work. This is called the pinfish color. I've had a number of nice fish on this. Caught a cobia yesterday on it. It's a wonderful little paddle tail. It's got blue and gold specks to it, but they have other colors that'll work. There's gonna be some colors you might want to go with, the electric chicken. Or you might want to go with, they got beer run. Beer run's an excellent color. The slam shady's an excellent one. There we go. Yeah, fish. Nope, little bite. That was probably a catfish picking it up if I had to take a guess. Yeah, nothing there. Any of those colors can work, and you can throw a paddle tail at them. If you see them swimming in the shallows, you can cast 5 feet in front of them, reel that bait right past their face, and a lot of times you're going to get a strike out of them. There's sometimes when you're fishing some really dirty water, stained water, and you kind of want to add a little bit more, attraction to that bait that you're using. That's when we want to talk about the Cajun Thunder. So Cajun Thunder is what we call popping cork or clacker rig, and these things make a lot of noise in the water. So what you do is you attach your main line to the lighter side. These are the brass beads. They're the heavier side. This is the lighter side. And as you kind of pop this through the water, it's going to make a lot of noise. You can pop it, let it sit, pop it, let it sit. And then depending on the depth of the water, it might be 1 foot below it, might be 3 feet, might be 5-6 feet below it. And you're going to put this jig head attached to a fluorocarbon leader. And these two combined, what you're doing is pulling this forward, making noise. This is coming up, and then this is going to sink back down together. Repeat process, fish on. There we go. All right, that's what we're looking for right there. We got a redfish that we got right here in the shallows as I'm sitting there talking. So this was on a chunk pinfish that we left up there pretty shallow. It's not a huge red, but it's a red. It's what we were looking for. See if I can't turn on this side of the boat. And this is the rod that I had the drag pretty light on. So as I'm reeling this fish in, I'm lightening up the drag for him. I really don't want to pull this hook out of his mouth. I got some pretty light line on there today, a nice small hook. So it gives me an opportunity to get a better chance at landing this guy. Oh, beautiful redfish. If I get lucky, my bait's gonna even stay on the line. Come here, dude. Don't worry, not gonna kill you. Just want a picture with you. One of the things we haven't talked about yet is a good quality landing net, especially if you're out here fishing by yourself. And we're gonna try to not only fight the fish, but land them. right, we got him right there. There we go, baby. Beautiful redfish right there. Check that guy out, huh? That's what I'm saying. 3000 series reel, 15-pound braid. We got a 20-pound leader on here today. And St. Croix, avid inshore, medium, 7-foot rod. Set that down. Let me get the hook out of this guy. He can go home, grow up, make more redfish babies. Well, he got hooked awkwardly. And I talked about it in one of the other videos. One of the key tools I like to use is this Baker de-hooker right here. This guy just has the hook kind of inside of his mouth almost, but using the de-hooker makes it a lot easier to get out. So here's our beautiful redfish. Got him on the cut pinfish right there in the shallow water. Maybe 10 feet off the bank up there. He might have been in 2 foot of water when he ate, but there he is, Mr. Redfish. That's what you can do to get out there and get some of your own. Oh boy, that fish needs to go because I got another one on right here. Ah, hell. Oh boy, pretty sure this one's a catfish though. Uh-oh, uh-oh, we got another bite. It's kind of feeling like a catfish. I really wish it wasn't. Yep. So, back to the talk about the Baker de-hooker, right? These catfish are poisonous. They got barbs in them. We'll just use this as a learning lesson right now, in the moment. Hold these things as far away from you as you can. Get your de-hooker. He's got spines on them. They have poison in them. And what we want... Get that crap out of here. As I'm sitting here, I'm actually watching the lines compared to one another with the wind to see if one's loosening, one other one's tightening, or vice versa. It's a dead giveaway if a fish has picked it up. Not all the times are these fish going to swim away from the boat once they pick up your bait. So a lot of times they might swim towards the boat. They may even not know they have a hook in them. So it's important to watch the lines and just kind of differentiate between the two. Like, is one getting tighter and this one's getting looser, but the wind's staying the same? It's kind of a dead giveaway that you might have a fish on. So always be watching those fishing lines. The other thing that may happen is your boat might sway left or right. Even if you do have 2 shallow water anchors like I do, a lot of times it may move. And it might only be a few inches, but that might indicate that if your boat's moving this way, these lines may loosen up or tighten up, and these lines may get looser. So it's all a matter of, are we watching all the factors happen while we're out here? Because these fish can be really, really fickle. Sometimes they're going to pick it up and just run with it, and you'll be like, yes, we're on. Other times they might just sit there and kind of, mama, mama, I don't really know if I want to eat this or not. And they act like that because it's so hot. I mean, our water temperatures here are 92, 93 degrees today, and we're at a shallow, we're at a low tide. I mean, it's going to be nuclear in there for them, so they're going to be lazy. So when you know these fish are lethargic almost in their own atmosphere, we really have to dial up our patience as an angler and say, look, you know, I just got 2 bites, one here and one there. One was really in shallow, one was out deeper. So I'm gonna stick with the path here. We're gonna stay patient for a little bit because I know that there's fish in here. I know they're willing to eat, and it might be their feeding time, but we might have spooked a few. So we'll wait for them to come back, maybe move back through again. Hopefully we get another bite. But that's kind of what we're looking at here and what I keep looking around for. I'm watching my rods, I'm watching everything that's happening, kind of surveying the conditions as they happen and making adjustments based on that.
This is a very unique spot that we're fishing. Not only is it great on high tide, but it can be great at low tide as well. On high tide, the fish move into the mangrove roots to forage for food. As the tide begins to drop out, these fish move onto this flat. You can see the sand potholes and the seagrass where the fish will ambush prey in those potholes. Also, it has a little bit deeper of a drop off behind on the left side of the boat where it goes down to 7 to 8 feet deep. There's also some oyster beds that are right up next to those mangroves as well. Allows you to whip your bait under there and catch some fish in the shade. Google Maps can be one heck of a tool to help you find redfish in your area. Start out by looking for oyster beds. Once you find those oyster beds, start pairing them with different things like old structures or deep water. Deep water is a wonderful place for these fish to go hide on low tide and places for them to forage where there might be bait moving in and out with the tide.
fish. There's no dots on them almost. See you later, buddy.
Thank you so much for watching this class on how to catch more redfish. Head over to saltwaterfishinguniversity.com to get more information and grow your skills as a fisherman. I'm Captain Phil. We'll see you on the next one.